Hey, doing Met fans, welcome to another edition of the Terry Collins Show, presented by Tunnel to Towers, supporting America's greatest heroes. Donate just $11 a month by going to t2t.org. That's T2T.org. I'm John Arezzi. We have another very, very busy show this week. It's the unofficial midway point during this nightmarish Mets 2026 season. It's All-Star Game week, and the annual baseball amateur draft was held this past weekend. We will go over the draft, the trade deadline, and all things Mets with Sal Licata, who will join us, also with Liz Benn in just a bit. And then one of the 1986 Mets, Howard Johnson, is going to join us today with a very big announcement. We also have an interview Terry Collins did with his dear friend Phil Regan, also known as the Vulture, one of the historic members of baseball, very long career, 60 years in the game. Phil passed away last week, and we're going to pay tribute to him today by replaying that interview that we did with him later in the program. With all that's upcoming on today's show, let's get right to the leadoff. With the midseason here, the All-Star break this week, the annual MLB Amateur Draft complete, we welcome back to the Terry Collins Show, the host of SNY's Baseball Night in New York, and also host of the Sal Licata Show, Sal Licata. And joining Sal, also returning to the show, former director of baseball operations for the New York Mets, a current analyst for TSN Canada and SNY analyst as well, Liz Benn. Great to have you both with us today.
Excited to be back and on with Sal. What a treat.
Yeah, happy to be here. I know, Liz. I feel like I haven't worked with you in a while. Excited to do a little episode here with you.
Now you have me twice in a week.
Oh, you on this week? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I'm on Thursday.
Okay, so we'll see you Thursday, and I don't know who knows when this airs, but yeah, look forward to it.
Well, this will be out tomorrow, actually, so or maybe even tonight. But and Liz has been traveling over in Europe, and she was a coach over there for a women's baseball team, and had a nice vacation. But her insights are always appreciated, as are yours, Sal. And let's get right into...
Oh, wait, what insights do I have? Liz has actual insight. I just have opinions. I don't know about insight.
Your opinions are... I have to always watch you because I'm just like... It's entertaining, and it's everything that the fans want to say. Well, and you have the forum to be able to do that. So
thank you.
You don't talk us off the ledge. You have us on the ledge with you, and we're just, So anyway, you're the voice of the fan. You really are. First, let's get to Home Run Derby last night. New format. Was 15 swings rather than on the clock. I thought it was a really exciting ending last night. I thought the presentation was a little bit better than previous years. But still, it seems to be a broken system from when it started years ago. But overall, did you guys watch? What did you think? Let's get your opinion of last night's Home Run Derby.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a bit. I think I'm used to the excitement of a Home Run Derby when I was a kid, when guys were mashing dozens and dozens of home runs. So I think that's what I like. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing. I'm sure that teams don't love that because of the actual impact on the body, just taking monster swings over and over and over again. And, an actual leverage situation where you can win a decent amount of money instead of just BP. So I like, huge numbers. I think it's entertaining and it keeps it closer. But I don't know. I don't foresee this being like the final version of what the Home Run Derby is going to look like for years and years to come.
Yeah, they got to figure out something here. They can't be changing it up every year. I don't like the idea of not having outs. I hate the time stuff. So they could go over whether it's the swings or whether it's the outs, and that's fine in the different competition. I thought last night was, like you said, John, great drama at the end. In the beginning, whatever, but then at the end when everybody expected Schwarber to win and Jordan Walker, hits his 6 home runs on his final swing and he ends up winning, I thought that was great. But ultimately for me, whether you have the outs or timed or swings, doesn't it come down to who's competing in this? Like, tell me you wouldn't be more excited about it if it weren't, and I know Judge is hurt, but and Ohtani's got a boo-boo on his knee that he's looking to rest during the All-Star break. But let's say it was Ohtani, Judge, Soto, Alonso. That's what you want to see. When
marquee names.
I remember watching Mark McGwire and Ken Griffey Jr. Like the biggest and the baddest names were in there. So I think that's the bigger issue than however format they want to come up with, is that it's lacking true star power.
Yeah. And that seems to be just an issue with All-Star generally. And I totally get it. As the front office person, the workload management, you want the guys to actually take a rest. But again, like I grew up with the actual big home run hitters in the league doing it. And now it's like, I'm really happy for Jordan Walker. I think that it's awesome that, in one night he just made more than his major league salary for the year. Like that's incredible. And it's fun to see a guy come up like that. But again, if you had that lineup of the power guys in the league, I mean, that would be the actual excitement. But I don't know how you get back to that at this point with kind of the front office restrictions and sports science information out there.
Yeah, it's always that. But it was cool to see the Philadelphia fans shut their mouths. So at the end of
agreed. That was the best part about it. Let them boo, let them cheer, and then to have them lose as usual in the end.
And like sweet. A walk-off situation.
Yeah, that's great.
They were going wild, and then all of a sudden it's like the air comes out of the balloon. And I've always liked Schwarber. I think the Mets should have signed him years ago, but I was happy to see the Philadelphia fan base get a little disappointed, because we're full of disappointment if you're like a Mets fan. And Sunday's game, and Sal, you and I have talked about this earlier in the season, where it's like, what's worse? A fan base that's angry or a fan base that's apathetic? Yeah. I think that Sunday's game brought back anger when I just couldn't believe how it ended. So it really, and I think the fan base is now, is it more, I haven't been to Citi Field. I'll be going in a few weeks, but what's going on at Citi Field, Sal? I think you were at a game in the last homestand. Liz, I don't think you've been there, but is this fan base getting angrier or now not caring, or is it a combination of both, which is even worse?
I think it's a little bit of both. Even at the game last week, I went last Wednesday, and they were playing the Royals, and they beat the Royals, and people were sitting there telling me with a straight face, like, this is going to be the turnaround, Sal. And I'm like, guys, like, come on. As much as, like, I don't want to burst your bubble or ruin your dreams or be negative here, but you gotta be realistic. So I think that there are some fans that are always going to hold out hope. That's just their nature. You got to believe. And I think there are some fans that are angry, and I think there are a lot more fans. If you had to ask me, like, the pie chart of where the Mets fandom is at right now, I would say the majority is apathy, and that's where I was at. But then even, like, they can't even help themselves, even with the apathetic stage that they're at. Like, it's over. We all know it's over. You're going into the All-Star break. You actually have a game where you're avoiding getting swept against the Red Sox, and Lindor boots a routine double play ball. So even with the apathy stage, how can you watch that and not be pissed off? So, of course, I was angry, and it reminded me of Lindor giving nothing this year and why I wanted to trade him in the offseason coming into this year. It's not just a knock on him specifically. We know it's more than just Lindor, but he's contributed exactly zero to the team this year. And it's a big reason why the Mets have not been any good. Getting picked off of first base, not knowing how many outs there are, the follies in the field. It's not even just his normal slow start. So that bothered me that he blew a game by booting a routine, what should have been a routine game-ending double play ball.
Yeah, it's sad watching this because guys just aren't being themselves. Like Lindor, last week I was, very much defending him because I love the guy and I think that he's great. But I'm also I was trying to think of, like, okay, what do they actually do at this point to kind of, the season cannot be saved, but in order to kind of reduce some embarrassment almost, or like make it a competitive second half at least, just to show some positivity. And I think that one of the issues I'm seeing too is that everybody who's on the coaching staff is great. They're extremely smart. They know what they're doing, but it's a lot of guys coming up from the minor leagues, and you don't have guys who have a bunch of big league experience. And so when Lindor's struggling like this, who is he actually going to go to and talk to and figure out, okay, what do I do? How do I get out of this? When nobody in that clubhouse has had that experience and can actually be kind of that support system for him. So I think that next year I would love to see the Mets add on to their coaching staff. I don't think anybody should be fired. I think that they're really good at the things that they're doing. There's a huge blank spot in the coaching staff where they don't have a guy who's a veteran presence. People love to hate on Eric Chavez. I got to work with him for 3 years. I thought he was awesome, and I thought that he had that presence, and he was kind of a guy that was so comfortable for every player to go to, including even pitchers, and just talk about the game and the struggles and the experience being in it. And that presence, I would think, is probably pretty significantly lacking in there at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot. And when you look at Lindor, especially, like, as you're saying, who does he go to? Who can he talk to? His manager's gone. Him and Soto, for whatever you want to believe, they're different personalities. So he's kind of lost. Like I said last week, he looks lost.
Mm-hmm.
He looks displaced. He looks kind of like the odd man out in a lot of ways with the new guys coming up. And you feel for the guy because you see the best of him. 2 years ago, I mean, he's been incredible. He's got this incredible energy. But who do you go to? Like you said, who do you go to turn it around for him?
And players-wise, too. I mean, the core was blown up, so he doesn't have Brandon Nimmo. He doesn't have Pete Alonso. He doesn't have those guys who he's been with for years and years who are able to help each other out. Instead, it's kind of this whole new team around him. Yes, he can help the rookies, but also who's supporting the guys who are not rookies at this point? And you need to have that mix in order for the team to kind of gel together and really help each other out.
But it's still not. It's still not. Sorry, John. It's still not an excuse for his poor play. Like, I agree with all that. Right? It makes perfect sense. It was his team in 2024. Soto comes. It's not his team anymore. There's an adjustment period. Then they get rid of everybody else. And now he's maybe on an island by himself. It's still no excuse to not know how many outs there are, to get picked off at first, to not field your position. Now, look, the guy's a gamer. I would have voted for MVP 2 years ago. So it's not that I don't like Lindor or think that he could be any good. Yeah. There has been a significant decline in his defense. Liz, I feel like this is something we talked about years ago, if not years ago, then at least a year ago, where you could see the metrics showing a decline with Lindor, which was one of the reasons why I was like, maybe get ahead of it and try to move him now. But point is, even with all those surroundings, I don't care if you like Soto or not. I don't care if he feels on an island by himself. You're a veteran. You're not a rookie. Suck it up and catch the ball, for goodness sake.
Yeah, and defensively, we talked about it a few times, Sal. Like I don't know. It's weird because I have issues with how kind of defensive metrics and projections are put together because they change a lot and I don't find them totally accurate. But for a few years, Lindor has been either average or a little bit below average defensively if you actually look at the metrics. On the field, you see him making some crazy plays and everything, which is great. But kind of on some of the routine stuff, the metrics say that he's average or below average and kind of trending down. So that's what we've talked about. I mean, I don't know what that means long term. I think that I'm not ready to have a conversation about like moving him over to second base or third base or anything like that. But for a long-term contract, it'll be interesting to see in a few years what ends up happening with him, and also how his performance actually does continue to play out. The mental mistakes have to stop. Hopefully, the All-Star break is a bit of a reset for him. But physically, how is he going to have to kind of keep adapting and also train himself in order to adapt to kind of an aging shortstop body too?
Yeah. And then, of course, you have the trade rumors that have been out there. And how does that affect an individual? Like, the other day he said no comment when he was asked if he would, waive that no trade thing. So there's got to be a lot of things floating in his head. But Sal, as you said, you got to play. You gotta take all of that and throw it out when you step onto the field and take your position. And it's maybe easier said than done. But
if you're the leader if you're the leader and the player that he wants to be and says that he is, then I don't want to hear about, they took everybody away from him. Well, he's on an island by himself. I don't care, man.
Be the captain. Be the captain. Right. Yeah. Show it.
Step up and do it. So even with the mentality, again, the play his average may not be there or the OPS may not be there. That'll take a little while to get going, but he has just looked lost from day one this year, and it has killed this ball club.
Yeah, it's sad to see for sure. Well, the trade deadline is approaching. Another couple of weeks. I fully anticipate, as I'm sure both of you do, that there'll be a lot of movement on the Mets side. Who do you think the Mets would be better off parting ways with? Sal, why don't you start?
Yeah, I mean, I would have everybody for sale outside of Soto. Obviously, they're not going to ever consider getting rid of Ewing or Benj, although I would never say never. Like, if the Cubs hypothetically said, hey, we'll give you Pete Crow Armstrong for Carson Benj and a minor league pitcher, like, you do that. So it's never like, oh, well, Ewing's going to be a stud guaranteed moving forward. Benj is going to be a stud guaranteed. We thought the same thing with Vientos after 2024. Didn't happen. Now, I love those guys. So, like, outside the young guys, I think everybody else should be up for grabs. I would want to extend Clay Holmes, assuming that he wants to be here. That was the latest report from Will Salmon. I like the idea of keeping Luke Weaver next year because I want to move on from Devin Williams, and Weaver could be the closer potentially. But I'm torn, Liz, in trying to build a winning team next year and keep some of the pieces that I think could help with that versus maximizing return now and then seeing what you could do with the holes that you get, whether it's Alvarez, whether it's Weaver, whether it's Clay Holmes. You could get holes for these guys and then maybe turn that hole into something even bigger moving ahead to next year. But I would pretty much be open to moving anybody at this point.
Yeah, I'm also just fascinated to see how teams treat a potential lockout. So like Weaver right now, in my mind, I'm just like, I'd move him because you don't know if you're playing baseball next year. You don't know how much baseball you're playing next year. So why not get, a year plus of Weaver presented to other teams as, hey, you're getting him for next year too. You need to give us a bigger yield. Meanwhile, like there might not be baseball next year. There might be a very short season next year. So I'm fascinated to just see how the market and the industry ends up treating those guys who have contracts through 27. But I would everybody should be open to talks, and everybody is open to talks. Again, I think I said last year at one point on BNNY, actually, I'm just like, if fans knew the things that were thrown around in the trade deadline room, like they'd freak out because everybody has talked about. I mean, sure, you're not going to talk about Soto because people also just like don't want the contract and everything because it's a big one, but everything is talked about. And that's how the Mets should be treating this. My fear is that the Mets will hold on to some guys who they shouldn't. I think that, again, with like a Vientos and a Beatty, I don't know if you're getting much return for them, but also like get something while you can, because if they keep having a horrible season, then going into next year, maybe you just can't get anything and you end up having to release guys. We saw it with other guys like, I don't know, say like a Dom Smith or somebody like that several years ago. The Mets held on to him. There was some trade interest at different times, held on to him, and he ended up being in the minor leagues to finish the 2022 season. So with some of those guys too, you have to kind of give up some of the looking on the bright side of like what could happen and know they're going to find it and just get something for them before there's nothing really left. But going to the guys who are actually kind of big trade deadline pieces, get rid of them unless they're a young guy or a core member of the team, which like there aren't many core members of the team left at this point. Get something back for them. And you can be picky too in the trade deadline room. Like, yes, you want to maximize player value and always get the most player value back. But if you think that you're going to compete next year, maybe you go for somebody who is kind of like a high potential AAA prospect. So like when we saw one who went to the Giants outfielder.
Drew Gilbert?
Yeah, Drew Gilbert. Like he went over. He wasn't ready to come up with the Mets, but then he came up with the Giants and gave them a bit of a run at the end of last season. So maybe you do target guys who are a little bit closer rather than maximizing player value at the younger years if you do want to compete next year. I see pitching as a big hole for the Mets, so maybe you do target higher level pitching if you can, even if there is a trade-off of not getting as much player value in return. So I don't necessarily think that would be David Stearns's mindset going into this. I think he wants the numbers to match up and the numbers to be maximized. But from kind of a baseball perspective and putting together a roster for next year, I would maybe consider that method too.
Yeah, and you went through it a few years ago when they did that big sell-off in Scherzer and Verlander, and they just kind of gutted everything, and that had to be tumultuous at that time for you working in the front office. And I think it's going to be more of those types of changes. On the Weaver part, I would hate to see them move him because you have another year of control, and he's like one of the brightest trade chips that they got, though. But I would hate to see them move him. And Vientos, Vientos is out, so forget him. He's got nowhere to go. They're not going to trade him. They can't trade him. But a lot of movement is going to take place. But back to Weaver, with the great year that he's had, not giving up earned run really since April the 30th, and Devin Williams continuing to not be the closer everyone had hoped. But Devin Williams was brought in supposedly as the setup man for Diaz. So why can't they, if they keep these players, why can't they just move Weaver into that closing role? And I think that would be at least give the Mets a better opportunity in safe situations. Sal? And then Liz.
Yeah, they could. Well, I would want to move on from Devin Williams. I don't know what the market is going to be like. I'm sure somebody would be willing to take him, somebody outside of the New York market. I don't think he's got a Yeah, right. I don't think he's got a bad outside of the Yankees. I don't think he's got a bad contract, and I think he could still be okay. I would just make my decision not based on what happened on Sunday, like that was more Lindor, not based on really anything that happened this year. Just the vibes from him to me, plus what happened a year ago with the Yankees, they don't fit. He's not a fit for this market. They will never win big with Devin Williams as a closer. So I would look to move on from him if I could. But I think Liz brings up a great point. It's where, okay, the value with Weaver would be that he's under control for another year. Yes, he's been lights out, but he's under control for another year. If you can sell that because next year may not matter with how many games you're going to play, who the hell knows, then maybe you maximize the return, and you could always think about bringing him back at some point. The value with Weaver to me is that he's been proven in New York in the big spots, and I like his attitude. So I'm kind of torn on him, Liz, but I understand the thought process of just maximizing whatever you can now, where you should be able to replace a bullpen arm, even if it is a good one like Luke Weaver. You should be able to replace that. It shouldn't be that difficult to replace a guy like Luke Weaver moving forward whenever they do play baseball next year.
But that would also require David Stearns to spend money on a big reliever in the free agent market, and he doesn't do that. So, like, that's kind of my worry there is, like, I'm so torn with him because I think there's so much value there. You can get a ridiculous prospect haul. I mean, he's probably the best relief pitcher on the market this year at the trade deadline. And so, like, you can just hold on him and kind of, like, really inflate that price to even be a bigger overpay than other guys who are on the market. At the same time, he has a friendlier contract so that you do get your closing pitcher for next year if next year happens without having to go on the free agent market again and spending a huge amount. So I'm torn there, but I lean get the huge overpay now.
Well, yeah, by the way, it would be like, we don't have to be torn. We're not there in the room right now, but let's say that we had the options and we say, okay, well, if it's not the price that we want, which is going to be in a ridiculous price, a major haul, then we keep them. If it is, exactly. If it is a major haul, then you have to make a difficult decision and say, you know what, I think we'd rather get this haul right now. So they're in a great spot either way with Luke Weaver.
Yeah, it's kind of being in the room when you're selling off your players when you had so much hope for a year sucks. It really sucks. You hate to be in that room. You hate to be doing that. It's upsetting. Like, there's emotions involved too. People think that there's no emotions, but there really are, because you're kind of just admitting months before the season's over that, like, you're done and you failed and everything did not work out the way you wanted it to. But you can't let that get in the way of making the really big moves that feel hard to make, but they're the rational thing to do. So you need to consider that for him. And again, my biggest fear is that the Mets don't sell as much as they should. Or they wait back a little bit too long and then prices start to decrease on certain guys. So maybe an offer that's on the table earlier in the trade deadline conversations is not there later on. So that's kind of my worry for them. And kind of just my biggest fear for the deadline is that they don't take the great offers while they have that opportunity to.
Yeah, and they have the opportunity because there are not very many sellers as there have been in previous years. Yeah. That's unfortunate for us because if we're sellers, we're one of the worst teams in baseball. And especially there's not a lot because of the wild card and the competitiveness, and teams are in it till the Mets until the final game last year and they didn't get in.
Yeah, and the AL right now, I mean, everybody's in the wild card, so one's going on the AL.
This is where the mettle of a good front office comes in. It's like, now, all right, we're forced to sell, but there are not a lot of sellers, and we got some good pieces.
Yeah, so it's a great year to be a seller. It's a seller's market. So the opposite stinks when the Mets, you would hope, would be in a position to buy with the way the landscape of the sport is now. Not many teams are selling, and it's like, well, we want to buy, but the pieces aren't that good. 2022, the same thing. It's like, I can't stand Vogelback and Ruff as options, but what were the better options? Much I want to yell and go nuts, there weren't really a definitive few pieces that you could have added. So right now, I mean, it sucks to be in this position for the Mets, but they are here now. You take advantage of what is clearly a seller's market.
Yeah, and now with the draft that just passed, of course, you can't trade the newly drafted players. I think, Liz, you mentioned that last
there's
week,
some
right?
certain rules.
There's a certain timeline, but there's now maybe a little bit of a glut in the minor league system for other teams that could make players available. So it's going to be interesting to see in the next couple of weeks how it plays out. And I know August the 3rd, by August the 4th, this team is going to look totally different. And so it's sad to see, but this is where we are. Looking to the future, the draft was held this past weekend, and I know that was a big part of what you did for the organization, Liz. You were involved with the team, and this is it's an exciting time to go into a draft. So the Mets did make some picks. There was some surprise in a couple of the picks, and then there was a surprise that an offensive player, an outfielder, was still in the 92nd pick in the third round. So if you can give us your analysis of what the Mets' top picks were, and that analysis of were these good picks for the Mets, you're never going to know. But what is that first impression for you seeing the picks that they made?
Yeah, I thought it was exciting because it seemed like they had a very clear strategy going into the draft too. I think in previous years we've seen Mets or just other teams just generally too. You see kind of a whole mix of like the high school, the college. The positions are all over the place. This was a college power pitcher draft for the Mets. So you saw clearly what they were doing, and it also shows a trust in a certain area of the player development system of who the Mets think they're drafting into this system and who that staff in the minor leagues is able to help. So I was excited to see that. I think I'm just generally excited to see pitchers too, because they're kind of lottery tickets often. Like Jonah Tong, we didn't expect him to be as good as he is. Even McLean, he came in as a two-way guy and he was a good pitcher. I think that when we drafted him, we knew he's going to be a pitcher. He's not going to be a position player. But he's also turned out even better than we expected him to be. So I always like drafting pitchers. Some of them will not work out. Some of them will. But drafting power pitchers, I think, is an interesting strategy too, because one, they're coming from college and so they're more proven. You've seen it kind of endure a bit more. Some of the guys have had injuries before. You see several guys who have had TJ already, which I think fans sometimes worry about. But usually when guys have TJ, their elbow is good for another 8 years or so, which is kind of funny to put these timelines on it. But having TJ recently is actually kind of a good thing because you don't expect another elbow injury for a while. So there's a bit of insurance there. I think it's an interesting group. I think the high velocity fastballs that you see from a lot of the guys who they chose, that's kind of a good anchor for them. But it seems like a lot of them don't necessarily have the refinement on the off speed or breaking balls. Some of them have some good sliders, but it'll be interesting to see how the player development system kind of refines them. And we do see that they are really good at adding pitches to guys' arsenals at any time of their development process. So it's a really interesting bunch of guys. I would even say the top, Wiggins.
Yeah, Carson Wiggins, pick number 27 overall in the draft. And I believe he's from, Arkansas? And he was clocked before the TJ surgery at over 100. He's not pitched since May of 2025, but that's their first pick. So Carson Wiggins, who's, 20? I think he's 21 or 21 years old.
Yeah, and but he's thrown a few bullpens. So the Mets tracked him and scouted him through the season as he was throwing pens, then also saw him at the combine, and he was up to 97. So, I mean, that velocity is going to keep growing, and he's about to have better resources than he had in college to stay healthy, get that velo up, and also maintain that velo in a safe way, because that's always a worry too. And I think also why we don't see as many high velo high school pitchers being taken, because there's injury risk there. So because he's already been through it and he's a bit older, that's kind of more of an assurance that the Mets have.
I have I was watching and, obviously reading as much as I can, but the second pick was selected 92nd in the third round, and he's an outfielder, Aiden Robbins from the University of Texas, Austin. And the Mets were surprised that he was still on the board because they had been scouting him pretty heavily throughout his collegiate seasons.
Yeah, he's an interesting one too, and I'm really excited to see how he progresses because he came from Seton Hall initially. He was with Seton Hall for a couple seasons and just dominated the conference there. Kind of understandably, if you're a good player, you're probably going to do well in that conference. But then once he moved to Texas, he got better, and so going from a lower level of competition to a higher level and then even getting better, that shows something really special about that player. But I think it also shows that he's open to coaching. He's very adaptable. He probably does well with more information and more resources. And that's what kind of allowed him to take that jump from Seton Hall to Texas and still do so well. So now going into professional baseball, he will have even better coaching, even better resources. So it'll be really interesting to see what improvements he can continue to make.
Yeah. And then finally rounding out the top three, who went in the fourth round, pick number 120 overall, another 22-year-old lefty from Texas A&M, Shane, and his last name is spelled Sdao, so I don't even know how to pronounce that. But he's also a guy that had Tommy John a few years ago. Is there anything that any insight you can give us about this kid?
So he's a bit of a tough one for me because there's some inconsistencies in his performance, and he's interesting. So he's a left-handed pitcher, and lefties are always a little weird too. So, just kind of par for the course there. But pre-TJ, he was at 92 to 94, which is, solid for a lefty. And that can, again, increase once he hits pro ball. But this year, his velocity was a bit of a tick down, and he wasn't really missing as many bats with his fastball. So he's getting hit a little bit more. His best pitch is a slider, and he tried to, throw a couple other pitches, and they weren't great. So I'm sure the Mets scouts are seeing something with him that goes way beyond kind of what the numbers are seeing, but he's not somebody who is kind of on an upward trajectory the last couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to the major leagues, professional baseball. But for him, to me, he seems a little bit more of like a lottery ticket pick, where you kind of hope for some upside, even if he hasn't always shown that through his collegiate career.
Well, that kind of wraps up the top three picks for the Mets. And of course they had, pages of them. So we'll see. They're all lottery tickets, right, Sal? I mean, they really are. Yeah. You don't know.
Yeah. Let me know when they come up here and start contributing, because even, it's scary. I know how important it is, but it is scary in today's Major League Baseball, where forget even the guys like Dominguez, Volpe, Wells, Spencer Jones, Vientos, Alvarez, Beatty. Forget those guys, who a lot of those guys were hype prospects. I mean, you look at Alvarez, you look at Beatty, you look at Dominguez, Volpe. Like, these guys were can't miss top prospect. That's the top. Like, all the guys you just mentioned drafted, these are the top prospects. And look at what they've done in the big leagues. And then you go to somebody like Vlad Guerrero Jr. Or Fernando Tatis. How does that happen? So it's not just with the prospects that are hyped and then can't have any success or consistency at the big league level. Even the proven guys who have had success before are struggling with consistency in the sport. So to get excited about the draft, I understand it. To predict what's going to happen, you have a hard time predicting with guys that are actually have done it before from year to year. So who the hell knows with this stuff?
Yeah. And all the guys you mentioned, though, Sal, those are all fielders. None of them are pitchers. And so that it also kind of makes me wonder, like, did the Mets also just mainly target pitchers this draft because they know that they're about to sell a bunch of guys off? And so they can get more sure thing prospects who are fielders, who have already been in the minor league system for a bit. Because, think back to Kevin Parado, who we took in the first round.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be like the guy,
He was supposed to be the guy. He was catcher of the year in his conference and everything. He was great. But then he gets to professional baseball and he can't hit the fastball. So what the Mets are also kind of doing now by taking pitchers is that they're safeguarding against those situations where that transition from collegiate baseball to pro ball, where the hitting, they just can't catch up to a fastball. The velo acclimation training that they do right when the guys get in the system doesn't really click. They can maybe fill some of those field spots with their haul and the trade deadline too.
That makes sense.
Bring it back to the days when the Mets got Tom Seaver by the commissioner picking his name out of a hat.
Yeah. Right.
I'm so old I remember that, Sal. So.
I've read about it. So don't feel that old.
Yeah. Well, I was there. Anyway, that was my beginning of my Mets fandom, and sometimes I wish my uncle would have taken me to a Yankee game in 1966.
Don't say that.
He was a diehard Yankee fan. Man.
No, come on. It builds character being a Mets fan, right?
My hero was the guy in back of me, Eddie Kranepool. He's like the poor man's Mickey Mantle because he wore number 7. But Eddie was like, he got 3 hits in the first game I ever went to, and that was it. I loved the guy for his entirety of his career. He was my guy.
The losing is what will make the winning that much more enjoyable.
40 years.
Whenever it happens. Whenever it happens.
I was one of those guys that jumped on the field September 17th of 86 when I was there. I jumped on the field in 73 when they beat the Reds in the playoffs. My mother almost killed me because I ripped up sod and I took it home with me. I had the sod over my shoulders and I planted it in our backyard.
That's incredible.
In 73, and it was like the fall and winter, so it certainly didn't grow. And she's like, where'd you get? I was like, that's from Shea Stadium. It's the grass at Shea Stadium. She thought it was crazy.
It's remarkable.
I'm still crazy. But anyways, speaking about feel good and the fans and the Mets and I was going to say a bad word, but I didn't. The season that's happening. What does the owner of the team, Steve Cohen and David Stearns, need to do right now for the rest of the season for the fans to somehow keep them engaged with the team during this embarrassing 14 months? Can Steve Cohen drop prices on parking? Or what can they do to say, we're sorry for this season. We're sorry for the collapse of last season. And this is how we're going to make it up to you. So I just want to get your fantasy thoughts about how this ownership can make us feel better as we now wait like a death knell till the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't think they can right now. I mean, I other than coming out, and they have, other than come out and apologize and take accountability, they're going to sell off some of these pieces, but that's not going to do anything for the fans in the short term. So I think the Mets, outside of the actual product on the field, if you go to these games, and I've been to a couple of them I went to one last week and then one at the end of June, the energy in the ballpark, even with the team losing, is great. The atmosphere is great. They've done a nice job making it a very entertaining, enjoyable spot to be. So I think Steve Cohen has excelled in all that aspects of it. They just haven't been able to field a winner. And it's Cohen's done all he could do. It just hasn't worked. It's time for the guys that he employs to start doing what they should do. And David Stearns is up, so he's got to do it. But something as bad as this, John, how do you fix it in the second half of the year? I think the Mets just need to continue. I mean, you want to give away some free tickets all over the ticket prices. I mean, I'm sure the ticket price is going to be low in the second half of the year because nobody's going to want to go out there.
In the secondary market, you'll be able to go the day of a game and get a ticket for $15.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't have the answers as far as that goes, but the fan experience, I think, has been excellent, other than the fact that the team stinks and they can't change that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from an on-field perspective, we've been saying all year long, I think everybody that I've talked to on this pod, on BNNY, it's please give the fielders consistency at a position. Let guys play their position, because that's going to translate to offensive performance too, because they won't be bouncing around trying to figure out, okay, last inning I was in left field, now I'm at second base, like Brett Beatty. It's give guys some consistency so that they can perform offensively. From a baseball development standpoint, you have to use this time to try out new things with your players to get them better for next year. This is essentially just reps that you get in game to try out new things, figure out what works, figure out what doesn't, so that next year you can be better, because it's free games at this point. You're not competing for a playoff spot. From a fan experience, I mean, now that I'm not with the organization and cheering on kind of revenue and profit, just make the games accessible for the community that it's in. Make it accessible. I know that there's the $5 Tuesdays, which is great, but make sure that the people who are actually in the community can go to the stadium and afford to go and have an incredible time and be a part of that whole experience. So whether that's more accessible tickets and stuff. I just always want to see the community that the team is actually in being able to enjoy it holistically.
Yeah. Well, we hoped. I think the three biggest days of the rest of this season are going to be obviously the 40th anniversary of the '86 team coming up. That should be fun for those who are old enough to remember that. And then after that, you have Carlos Beltran going into the Mets Hall of Fame, getting his number retired. And then September 14th is the day that everyone's looking forward to, and that's when Baltimore comes to town.
Oh, I was like, what is September 14th?
It's a Monday.
That's going to be that's going to be I hate to say it, that's going to be ugly because everybody's going to want to go there and just cheer Pete Alonso the whole night. That's not going to be a positive night, I don't think, for the Mets or the organization or Mets fans like myself who detach from individual players. Like I would have tried to keep Pete, but I thought it was the right thing to break up the core. And obviously the results, they fell flat on their face. That's not going to be a pretty series, I don't think, when Alonso comes in here.
No. I mean, and this is where, I mean, Sal, I listen to you, I watch you on your shows, and that the emotional connection to a ball player is really, I think what you with Soto. I mean, you love Soto, but if the Mets,
I rooted for Piazza when he came back as a Padre at Shea in 2006.
Yeah,
and he hit 2 home runs, I think. Yes. And I was rooting for him to hit a third.
Yes,
but also the Mets were really good, and there was an understanding of why they moved on from Piazza. It was the end of the contract. They had to transition. This is different. The majority of Met fans never liked the idea of letting Pete go. Then all the moves that they made fell flat on their face. They're one of the worst teams in the league. Now he's going to come back, and even though the Orioles stink, he's still doing what Pete does. He puts up power numbers. We know that he was going to be able to do that. I just don't think it's going to be a good scene where you have the majority of Met fans in your building rooting openly for Pete Alonso and going to be cheering about Pete Alonso all night long, whoever is there. I would bet that's going to be the case.
And fans get attached to players, but fans don't get attached as much to certain guys that often, and Pete was one of those guys. So even if you look at Pete and Diaz, for example, like Diaz, Mets fans obviously loved. It was a whole culture around him. He was amazing, but there's still a bit of a different feeling about letting him go versus letting Pete go. Like Pete was the guy.
Yeah, you turned the page on Diaz. I turned the page on Diaz. I turned the page on McNeil. Obviously, Nimmo was a little bit different, but with the Pete thing, that just brought back Tom Seaver memories to me. In 77. That's what it did. Because when they got rid of Seaver, even though Seaver in a way back then wanted to go, Sal, I'm just different from you. I have these emotional connections.
No, I'm shaking my head. I get it. I'm saying it was stupid. I'm just thinking
and even Piazza when he left, it was like, well, maybe, and then the next year they get into the playoffs or whatever. So it's like those are the connections to me. I look at the history and I'm kind of a historian because I am 60 years in as a fan, and I see moves that they made, and it even disturbed me in 86 when they wouldn't re-sign Ray Knight, and it disturbed me in 2015 when they let Danny Murphy go. So these are the things that this fan base, when you are cultivating a fan from 7, 8, 9 years old, and then you rip off a player and like a Pete Alonso who these kids beloved, and you just like, he's gone. It's a business. How does a 7-year-old understand it's a business when he loses his hero?
But if you're doing, those are the difficult decisions that can be the difference in building a championship organization or not. The problem is they made that decision. Like I wanted Alonso back as a DH. Okay, give him his $140 million, whatever, as a DH. But if you look at what they've had at first base, you'd kill to have Pete Alonso being the first baseman.
I know.
So the problem to me was not letting Pete go because they did not win. Period. End of story. That core did not win. So my problem was not in just letting Pete go. It's with who they replaced him with. When we first talked about letting Pete go, the idea was go get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You pair him with Soto. Now, again, he's been terrible this year, but like that was the thought. Never in any situation that I ever think that Vientos or Beatty could be a capable solution or replacement for Pete Alonso. The Mets did. And then Polanco, I got behind the idea of Polanco, but also he's not a first baseman and he couldn't stay healthy. So It's not that they let Pete go. It's the combination of letting Pete go, but failing horrifically with trying to replace him. That's where the Mets really screwed up.
And Sal, I remember talking to you about at one point when once Pete was gone, it was like, okay, now what? And I think we thought that like Arezzi would be a good idea. He would be a really good guy because like, okay, there aren't any other real first basemen on the market, but this is a guy who at least he's going to get a lot of contact. You can use him behind Soto. And so, you're not walking Soto the whole season, and he can like handle first base. Putting Polanco there, who is not a first baseman, that was never a solution, and I don't know why anybody expected that to be a solution. Also with his health concerns, so it just did not make any sense. I don't know, and it just seemed odd too that we don't need to go back into like last year's offseason and free agency, but the fact that the Mets didn't even really try with Alonso, what was their plan? Like Vientos is not the solution long term at first.
I think their plan was we'll replace this big bat with Kyle Tucker, Bo Bichette, Kyle Schwarber, one of those big. That was their better investment. Where in reality, to me, one of the reasons why I wanted Pete back was the better investment is the floor with Pete is he could produce in New York. He plays every day, and he's going to hit with power. Like those are givens. And I've got my issues with Pete as a player. I don't think he's well-rounded, big spots, whatever. But the floor for Pete is a pretty solid floor. All the other guys, Schwarber may be different because, you just plug him in at DH, he's going to mash anyway, but he went elsewhere. Tucker would have been a freaking disaster here. Bo Bichette has been a disaster here. Like, all the other options failed and weren't as good as the stable floor that Pete Alonso brings. So, I don't know. They screwed it up. I mean, we don't need to go back over it, but it's horrible. It's one of the reasons why they failed miserably this year.
I still got faith in Bo.
I like Bo, but I don't know. I mean, Liz, where are you at with Bo? Do you think he's just not fit for New York?
I think that just like the transition to New York after being with the Toronto organization for 10 years, that's going to hurt anybody, no matter what. And we always see that if there's a guy who's with one organization for his whole career and they switches over, he's going to perform worse than the previous year. That happens almost every time. But doing that, throwing him at a new position and then saying, oops, Lindor's hurt now, go back to shortstop, even though we've only been training you at third base, that's providing more inconsistency. So that's not helping. I think he's starting to hit a bit now, but also for him, he was expecting to come into a championship World Series level team. And from day one, the team has been struggling. So it was just so many inconsistencies, unmet expectations. He was not really set up for success, I think. And then he, recently he started to hit a little bit more. Again, we haven't seen the power show up yet, but I'm not worried about that right now. I just want him to hit the ball and, be Bo. Like he's not striking out, which is good. That's what his standard is. And yeah, he's one of those guys who I just want him to use the rest of the season if he's not traded somehow, to just get back to himself and start to feel comfortable here.
Yeah, well, hope he does. I want to thank both of you for your time today. Please let everybody know where they can find you on social media, on television, all your platforms. So we'll start with Liz and then go to Sal.
Yep, you could find me on X at Elizabeth with 2 N's, and on Instagram at Elizabeth.Ben, and I'll be on BNNY with Sal on Thursday. And next week I'll be on TSN quite a bit. So Canadian listeners to the Terry Collins show, you know where to tune in.
You can catch me on Baseball Night in New York, as Liz said. We'll be on Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. on SNY. And, of course, check out the YouTube, The Sal Licata Show on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, we want to thank you both again, and we'll talk to you both real soon. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So great to have both Liz and Sal here today. Of course, different types of personality, and I really wanted Liz to come back because of her analysis of the draft and the trade deadline. She worked in the front office of the Mets, and Sal speaks his mind, opinionated, and such a huge following he has. It's always a pleasure to have them on the show, especially together. It was great to get different viewpoints for sure. And speaking about appreciation, we certainly appreciate, as do thousands of first responders and military families, appreciate the day-to-day mission of the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, as we do right here at the Terry Collins Show. So let's update you on some T2T news. It's one of the most iconic home runs in Mets history. In the first game in New York after 9/11, Mike Piazza hit a game-winning homer against the arch-rival Braves. The eruption of joy and tears was a sign the city and those who were mourning could find a way forward. Piazza's home run is one of the many moving stories in the Tunnel to Towers documentary, which we have certainly covered here. Never forget how baseball helped heal New York. You could watch this entire video now, not just on the Terry Collins YouTube channel, but go to t2t.org, because now they are also streaming it on their website. Go to t2t.org. Just put the word baseball in the search bar. And the Tunnel to Towers Steel Across America tour is about to start heading back east. A 21-foot column recovered from the Twin Towers has been traveling the country, giving Americans a chance to see and touch the sacred artifact. The Steel Tour will be at T-Mobile Park in Seattle on Friday, July the 17th, before the Mariners-Giants game. That is this Friday. Then the beam will go to the Utah State Capitol and Mount Rushmore on its way back to New York. The tour is part of Tunnel to Towers' commitment to educate people about 9/11 and make sure we never forget. You can learn more about the Steel Tour and Foundation by going to t2t.org. And to mark the 4th of July holiday that just passed, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation provided 30 mortgage-free homes to some of America's greatest heroes. That includes the families of a Philadelphia police sergeant and a Charlotte County sheriff's sergeant. If a first responder or service member is killed in the line of duty and leaves behind young children, Tunnel to Towers will pay off their mortgage. And if a first responder or veteran is catastrophically injured, the foundation provides them with a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. The 30 homes for Independence Day were delivered to families in 19 different states. You can help Tunnel to Towers on its mission to do good by donating $11 a month at t2t.org. That's t.org. And we will be back with a key member of the 1986 World Champion New York Mets, HoJo. Howard Johnson returns to the Terry Collins Show for a big announcement right after this word from Mets reliever A.J. Minter on behalf of the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
I'm Mets pitcher A.J. Minter. I come from a military family, and that's why I support the mission for Tunnel to Towers. They help our military, our veterans, and our first responders. They change lives. I support Tunnel to Towers because it truly embodies what America stands for. You can do your part to help as well. A donation of $11 a month can make a big difference. Go to t2t.org to find out more. Let's go Mets, and let's help Tunnel to Towers.
I want to welcome back to the Terry Collins Show, Howard Johnson, HoJo, a member of the 1986 World Champion New York Mets, celebrating their 40th anniversary, and he's come to give us a big announcement today. HoJo, welcome back to the show, first of all.
John, great to see you again, buddy. How you doing?
Doing great, and also want to thank you for participating in a Tunnels to Towers PSA. It's finishing being edited. It's going to be airing on the scoreboard at Citi Field. It's going to be airing here on the show and across the country. So T2T thanks you for doing that first and foremost as well. So we appreciate that.
Of course. That was a great time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. What a great facility you have. I mean, the academy is amazing.
Yep. It's really good. We get a lot of kids in here, a lot of families. It's really a fun place to be. People come in here. It's a great time.
Yeah, you could tell. And you got some great young athletes in there. I just saw some of the kids hitting the ball. I'm like, wow, they're on a good track. That's for sure. But you have an extremely few busy weeks coming up. First, the 86 reunion is just days away now, really. And your schedule for that week, you probably have so much going on, like everyone else who's coming in. There's so many guys coming in. So give us a little bit of a kind of a taste of what you have on your plate that week, and before we get to your big announcement.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy week for sure. I'm going to be up there the week before our golf tournament. We have a golf tournament on August 3rd. It's our first big event. and we're looking forward to it. A lot of the guys from my team in '86 are going to be there playing, so it should be a really, really good time with all the guys around, having a blast, a lot of food, just having an enjoyable day, and it's the perfect ending for our 40th anniversary reunion on Saturday. So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be a blast.
So you guys got, I think there's a cocktail party the day before the August 1st ceremony, and there's so
Yep.
much going on that week, and I'm sure you're being stretched. But you talked about that event that's going to be taking place up in Brewster. You have formed a foundation, and I'd like you to tell us about the foundation. It's a brand new foundation, I assume. So tell us all about the 20 Foundation and how you started it and what the mission is.
Well, it's a pleasure to be able to talk about it. It's for a long time, myself, my family, we've talked about how we can have a lasting impact on youth. And of course, with our facility here in Nashville, that's what we try to do. And then we thought maybe there's another way we can impact more youth in all parts of the country. And we decided to come up with a foundation, and it's called the 20 Foundation. And it's basically we're there for kids of all ages, kids of special needs. Um, Basically, whatever we want to do with them, if we can help them in any way we want to do it, whether it's financially, school, Medicare, medical issues, anything like that. Um, Try to tie it in with our facility here, bringing them in, giving them a chance to play baseball and learn from some great coaches, but just really just kind of be available. It's a way for us to establish something that will have a lasting impact long after we're gone. So we're just trying to give back to the community and just try to be visible and be there. We're faith based, so we try to preach the gospel and use that vehicle as a way to spread the good news about Jesus Christ, and just see where it takes us, man. We're putting it all out there, and we hope that it goes well. I know our first event, the golf tournament, is going to be a great event. It's going to give us an opportunity to raise money and put that back into the community there, as well as here in Nashville. We've also got other events planned in this area in Nashville. So we're just getting started, John, and it's going to be a labor of love for sure. It's been a lot of work, but we've laid the groundwork, and so now we're just trying to reach out and be visible in the communities.
Excellent. And I know your first big event, as you mentioned, is going to be up in Brewster, New York. It's a golf tournament, charity golf tournament, and it kicks off, I believe, on the 2nd with a cocktail party or dinner. So let us know about that. It's called the Pairings Party. There it is. And tell us about what that entails for those who may want to participate and be a part of it.
Absolutely. This is going to be a very limited event because it's the restaurant Rachi's is one of my favorite places up there in Brewster. I go there all the time. I'm up there quite a bit. My buddy, Paul Yonke, who's kind of leading the charge with the golf tournament. We have a good friend, Hayden, who owns that restaurant, him and his family. And the pairings party is going to be a chance for the guys to kind of let loose and see everybody and introduce themselves to everybody. We have food, we have cigars. There's going to be some drinking there, but nothing too big. But it's gonna, because it's an early day on Monday. We don't want to ruin everything for Monday. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's very limited, the tickets that we have. If people go to the 20foundation.org website and click on events, they'll be able to see the golf tournament and they'll be able to see the pairings party. So they can sign up for that, and that's going to be a blast. I mean, it's most of the guys will be there, plus some that aren't playing in the tournament will be there. So we're looking forward to a big turnout, and the food there is amazing. The atmosphere there is amazing. There's a whole upstairs level that that Hayden built. They built this thing over the last couple of years, and it overlooks the back. There's a big water fountain and fire, and there's all kinds of stuff out there. So it's really a good time to watch a baseball game, or just relax and have a good time and meet people.
Excellent. And then the actual event on August the 3rd, the golf tournament itself.
Yes.
And it's golf with the world champion 86 Mets. Can you tell us more about who might be coming and who have you got commitments from, and how many teams are involved, how many pairings are involved? So give us all the information on that and how people can register for it.
So we are playing this tournament at Morfar, which is a very, very private club in Brewster. It's on the border of Brewster and Danbury, Connecticut. And we have a good relationship with the people there. It's the old AIG course. Very, very private. They only have like maybe total a day, 8 to 10 foursomes. That's it, a day that play that course. Mm-hmm. And they've made it available to us. They're getting ready to do a big renovation there. And one of the things they want to do for us was to open the course up and have a tournament. And it's a chance to play a very exclusive place. And we're kicking that off at 10 o'clock a.m. on Monday, August the 3rd. We have sign up and breakfast from 8 to 9:30, 10 o'clock shotgun. We have, we have like 15, 16. We're limited to 16 foursomes. It's unusual for tournaments to have a few amount. Usually people sign up and they go to a golf tournament and there's like 2 foursomes on every hole. We have 16 fivesomes, and that's what we've got. So a lot of good celebrities, a lot of guys from my team are making the trip. They're going to stay overnight. They're going to play guys like Straw, Mookie, Jesse Orozco, myself, Dave Magadan, Barry Lyons, Bobby Ojeda. There's more. Believe me, I can't even name them all. Stefan Matteau from the Rangers.
That's quite a group. That's quite a group.
It's a good group. Yeah. Yes, it is a good group.
That's amazing. We wanted. We're going to put up all the graphics so people know. And I know you had invited Terry, and Terry won't be able to make it, and you extended an invitation to me, and I appreciate that. I won't be able to make it. That's when I actually head back to Tennessee. I'm heading to New York next week, and then I'll be there right through your 86 reunion, and then heading back to Tennessee that Sunday, or else I'd go. Yeah. But what we'd like to do, just because of the invitation and your courtesy, on behalf of the show, we'd like to make a donation of $500, at least a little something for. We'll awesome. go. I'll go online and we'll make our donation of $500 to the cause, and it's certainly something
thanks, John. I appreciate that very much.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So I hope that helps a little bit. But,
yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see you at some of our Nashville events.
Oh my goodness. I'm a block away from you. You know that.
I know, you're right there. Come on, man. You're right here.
You're on the corner outside of my front door. I make a right turn. You're on the corner. So
well, you have an open invitation, buddy.
Well, anything I can do to help you here in Tennessee, I got a wide contingent of people still in the music business that I know. And so anything I can do to help you in your cause, I believe in it. Anything to help kids. That's why I'm so blessed to be able to work with Tunnel to Towers and help with them, whatever I can do.
Yes.
And anything I can do for you and your cause, I'd be more than happy to. So I wish you the best.
Thank you very much. Yeah, people can go on the website and check it out and see what we're all about. Our mission statement's on there, and you'll be able to get more information about us.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to having ongoing discussions with you about it, and I look forward to seeing you that weekend. I will be at the big reunion, so I can't wait because I was there. I was just telling. We just had Sal Licata from SNY and Liz Benn, who was a former front office executive for the Mets, and she's an analyst now as well. I told her 40 years ago I was there. I remember September 17th, and I remember being one of the animals that jumped on the field.
So you're the one that tore up the field. You're the one. You're
one of them. But then, showing how old I am, I was telling them that I jumped on the field in '73 when the Mets beat the Reds in Game
Oh
5
my
of the
gosh.
playoffs then. And I was there,
Wow.
and I was at the '69 World Series in Game 4. So I saw Seaver and I saw
Dang.
Swoboda's catch. So yeah, that happens when you're about to turn 70 in a few months.
Somebody ought to be interviewing you, bud. You got all the information. You got all the history.
I go back to '66. Yeah, that was my first game, July 3rd, '66, and the guy in back of me, Eddie Kranepool, on my wall was got 3 hits in that doubleheader against the Pirates, and for 17 years he was my hero. 60, till his last game played in '79, and I got a chance to meet Eddie.
And he was the man. He was a good man. Yes, he was.
Oh my goodness! I mean, he was like the guy for me. Like everyone has the guy, and everyone used to make fun of me. He was like, he's a poor man's Mickey Mantle, because he wore number 7. But he was my guy. What can you do?
Hey, but we all got our guys, man. We're kids.
Yeah, I go back with this team. It's been in my DNA since I was, how old was I? I was 9 years old in '66.
Wow.
And I've been to all of the playoffs. I haven't think I've missed very many playoff games ever. So,
I'm 65.
Uh-huh.
I'm 65, and my first memories of baseball and TV was watching the playoffs and World Series during the day when they used to have day baseball, which I wish they would do that again. If I was commissioner for a day, I would do that. I would say, hey, we're having day World Series and playoff games. And I just remember my dad, they'd let me, come home from school early and watch. I remember Tug McGraw slapping his glove on his thigh.
Yes, that was was incredible. That was incredible. I remember when I was in 6th grade, my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Young, it was in 1967, and he brought the TV into the classroom when the Red Sox were playing the Cardinals. That was the first World Series that I remember, and I loved the Red Sox that year because of Tony Conigliaro and Yaz and Jim Lomborg, and then in '68, I remember being sick at school, making believe so I could watch the Tigers against the Cardinals in the World Series.
Wow!
And then in '69, of course, the Mets made it. So
yes, yep.
So I was hooked at a very young age, and it's still. I look at myself today, and I'm like, after all these years, someone that is my age can actually do something that he has such a passion for at a late stage in life.
Amen.
It makes you say, like, nothing's, don't ever give up. Always pursue it, no matter what it is.
Always, man. Always pursue it. You gotta have that heart in you, that desire, to do something. And if you could give back or you could create something that's going to bring fans from different generations together like that, oh man, you got to do it.
And getting to work with TC, I mean, that's who would have thought. And getting to do a podcast with John Gibbons for a couple of years. I mean, with the Toronto Blue Jays, 22 and 23. Gibby was my roommate when I worked with the Mets and the minors. I worked in '81 for the Shelby, North Carolina Class A South Atlantic League Mets, and that was Lenny's first team.
We tried to get Lenny to come, but he's recovering from that stroke he had last year. So
I know. I'm so happy that he's going to be a part of the weekend, and I'm so happy that Straw got involved.
Straw will be there as well. Yep, Straw beat our tournament.
I can't
Straw's
wait.
the man.
He is.
These guys are the heart and soul of our team. We just wouldn't be right not to have Lenny around for sure. Yeah. And we wanted to have him at the tournament. He wanted to come, but he just can't physically do it right now. Yeah. So he wants to pass until next year. So next year's tournament, which we have a place, but we can't announce it yet. It'll be on Long Island. So we're going to have that, and Lenny should be there for that.
Excellent. Well, I wish you the best with it. Have a great week during that 40th annual reunion, and have a very successful, very first charity event for your foundation.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. Let's make it a success. That's all I want.
Absolutely. You're quite welcome. Great to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Anytime.
All right. Thank you. All right, that was Howard Johnson, who was just with us and promoting his new foundation, the 20 Foundation, and his golf tournament coming up. But someone who actually introduced me to Howard Johnson has joined us, Dominico from Coachs Collectibles. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, John. How are you, bud? Always a pleasure.
Yeah, great. I mean, I am just astounded when I look at how busy you are. And everything that you got going on. It's just been incredible. So first, welcome back. We love getting updates from you.
Thank you.
You got a couple of busy weeks upcoming with the 86 reunion. And of course, you know most of these guys and do business with them. So give us an idea leading up to the 86 reunion. What is your schedule looking like over the next few weeks?
So, I mean, we start this week with Fanatics Fest, as I have my clients, David Wright and Jose Reyes, both appearing on Friday at Fanatics Fest at the Javits Center. So they're both public autograph signings, photo ops, and they'll be joining some other Mets there. Johan Santana's there, Mike Piazza, Carlos Beltran making his first public appearance as a Hall of Famer now, officially. Well, I guess officially. And then some of the 86 guys as well. So we'll see Daryl, we'll see Doc, we see Keith. And so that starts the weekend. And then after that, we go right into next Thursday with AJ Ewing, who is one of the few bright spots in our Mets, 2026 season, which we're very excited about. And the public has really gotten behind this one. I mean, it's been selling like crazy. So I'm very excited about that. And then we start with the 86 guys.
Let's get to we'll get to the Ewing thing after the 86 guys, but are you personally going to be attending the reunion yourself?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, I'll be attending the reunion. Luckily, somebody has offered me some tickets into a suite for the game. So we'll be with all the 86 guys that day, which is going to be awesome. My wife and I, and just kind of that day will be more of a relaxing day. But right before that, it's, is when, and before and after is when we get a little crazy. The 30th, we've started this, we've gotten involved in this event with the Cradle of Aviation Museum here on Long Island. That's putting together a celebration dinner for the 86 Mets. And a lot of guys have signed up to be there, which has been incredible. You've got Daryl's coming, Doc's coming, Jesse Orozco, a lot of the Bruce Berennis, Randy Myers, who rarely does any, 86 Met appearances, is going to be there, which is awesome. And then guys like Terry Leach and Doug Sisk and Dave Magadan. So just going to be great to see kind of all those guys together. We're working on also bringing a very special guest that I think will be fun, which is Michael Sergio, who is the parachutist from Game 6. So has really never done anything, in the last 40 years. But he's embraced it, and he's going to potentially be making his first real appearance to kind of talk about that whole thing, which is great because I'm starting a relationship with him, and I plan to help bring him to the Queens Baseball Convention in December, which I think will be a really good place for him as well. And, we'll be just doing a lot of stuff with those guys that day, and the game is on the 1st. And then we go kind of right into HoJo's golf outing, which I'm sure you just went over with him on the 3rd.
Yep. So you're doing that as well? You're going to Brewster for that?
Yeah, we'll be up in Brewster for that. We're handling the silent auction for him and just assisting with the event in general. A lot of the guys will be signing autographs, and we're getting some stuff done there as well. So it's going to be a very, very, very busy weekend, but it's a lot of fun stuff. It's great to see a lot of the guys that we don't see often that come into town. The regulars we see all the time, but just to catch up with, the Jesse Orozco's, who is such a great, awesome dude, but he lives in California, and we see him every so often. It's nice to see him, and it's going to be great to just be a part of that locker room, background or feeling, with all these guys together again.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys that are coming in and maybe have not gone to a couple of the other reunions. Yeah. I mean, and the fact that all these guys together in one place and the week that they all have lined up for themselves from the Aviation Museum, I'm going to attend that with my nephew, and then the weekend event. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a great memory. 40 years
40
is a long time, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun for whoever participates, and we have graphics that'll be up on the show so people can find out how to get into and purchase a ticket for the Aviation Museum. We've already promoted the HoJo's stuff as well. But when you turn the page on the 86 stuff and you look at what you got going on as well, this past week, we do have a video that we'll pull up in a second here of Steve Gelbs, because signed, sealed, and delivered. Last week you posted a picture of Keith Hernandez signing his half of the Lady and the Tramp moment. And now Steve Gelbs made an announcement. Marsh, if you have access to that TikTok video, We're going to pull that up in a second here. But now it's signed, sealed, and delivered. Both of these gentlemen have signed these pictures. I know that when we posted it on our social media, people are reacting to it in a very major way. So, Marsh, when you have that TikTok, let's put it up and take it out.
Just never know where a season's going to take you. If you would have told me prior to this year starting that I'd be on camera eating a hot dog, Lady in the Tramp style with Keith Hernandez, and then be signing pictures of it later on in the season, I mean, how could I have ever envisioned something like that? Yet here we are.
I mean, Steve is so great. It's so funny. And I mean, when I first reached out to him, when I was watching that game, and when I saw it, I was like, it light bulb clicked to me like immediately. Like, this is something that fans are going to embrace, are going to love. Because the segment of the show or I shouldn't show the show, of the games where he does the Let's Be Frank, has really kind of like taken off, and it's a fun anecdote and fun little clip, that they do, and it helps a lot of times because some of these games are just brutal to watch. So, like, to get him involved, and I told him it's just great for TV. So just like when I saw it, I immediately texted him and I was like, hey, I mean, we got to do this photo. I just got to I got to hope Keith will do it, and Keith was very embraceful of it and was like, yeah, he's like, I'll sign it. And I told this to Steve too. I said, in typical Keith Hernandez fashion, as he's signing the photos, he looks up at me. He goes, Dom, I want you to tell Steve something. I go, what's that? He goes, tell him thank you for the payday. So like, in typical Keith fashion, he was, hey, this, because I'm signing them, Steve's going to get a payday out of this, and we all laughed, and Steve laughed about it too. And he was like, that sounds about right.
Sounds like Keith for sure. And this thing is in, I guess, limited quantities. I mean, but you're selling it at a very affordable price for any fan that like to pick one up. I think, what is it, $99?
$99. Yep, $99 total. It's signed by both of them, and Gelbsy inscribed all of them. Let's be frank.
Yeah,
which was cool.
Signed in orange.
Yep.
So we'll have a picture. We have a picture that we'll post in post production of that, of course. But yeah, that's a on our socials when we tag it and we put a picture up there. I'm like, it's almost like. It has become very viewed, very watched. The impressions that are involved with it, people are loving it. I mean, when you put a picture up of a piece of memorabilia and it gets like 300 likes on Instagram and it's been seen by 7,000 impressions or whatever, it's like it's resonating. So hopefully it'll resonate in sales as well for you. And I know the thing that you do, which is amazing too, is you use a TC Show promo code, and that gives people free shipping if they use that code. And of course, you're making,
which they have been, by the way.
Yeah, and you donate 10% of stuff of sales to Tunnel to Towers. So not only that, but you have other stuff that's out there right now. Just the amount of stuff on your website is amazing. But you also do these great watch-alongs with players, and you have another big announcement on the AJ Ewing, which you touched upon, which is coming up on July 23rd out on Long Island. So let everybody know about this event, how they can participate, where it is, the times, and what can they expect to meet one of the Mets' rookie sensations, AJ Ewing.
For sure. So we're looking at Thursday, July 23rd, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. So we're going to do 6:30 to 7 o'clock will be his photo op session, 7 to 8, his autograph session. We're at LaFleur Event Space in Franklin Square, which is the first time we're using this space, but I was looking for something a little bit more west than what we've normally done, just to make it a little more convenient on a weekday for these guys. They're coming from
Nassau County?
Yeah, Franklin Square is Nassau County. It's basically, right past UBS Arena. UBS in Vermont, so one town over, you're into Franklin Square. Hempstead Turnpike, very easily accessible, plenty of parking in the back and the front. And it's a nice open space. So again, first time we're working with it, but I'm looking forward to it. I think this, if it works, it's going to be a great space for us for future events too, being a little bit more west for the city guys and stuff like that on a weekday.
Yep.
And I mean, AJ is he's just a great kid. So I think, again, people are very excited. I mean, autograph pricing is very fair. It's $89 any item. Tickets are right on our website, so coachescollectiblesny.com, and you can just click either type in his name or click upcoming events, and it's right there. And I just think he's a big, major bright spot, and I think for the future he's a stud and will be, either a center or a corner outfielder for probably a very long time with the team. If him and Benj continue to play like this together, I mean, that's a great core for the outfield.
Yes,
and it's a big bright spot with him and McLean. Obviously, Juan Soto is just on a different level of player, but I mean, it's a good core of guys, and they're good kids too. That's what's good about it. Like, they're very humble, nice kids.
It's the most exciting thing about the Mets this season is to see Benj and Ewing and Christian Scott and of course Nolan and the new kid that they brought up who's been phenomenal. The pitcher, he's been incredible. So those are things that we look forward to in a dismal season otherwise.
Absolutely.
And then when you put Soto in the mix, and Soto, of course, is helping mentor those kids in his own way, and they've developed a friendship. So you have a core of outfield that seems to be set for many years to come, hopefully, for the New York Mets, and they can turn this thing around. For sure. Because it's been a horrific season otherwise, But your website, Coachs Collectibles New York. .com and we so appreciate the association with you and
of course
working with you and continued success with everything you do, and we look forward to seeing you up in New York during the reunion week.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time. I might put you to work that day, John. I'm gonna need some hands. A lot of guys signing that day.
Yeah, I'll be ready. I'll bring my nephew. He can volunteer as well.
Love it.
So anything we can do to help, we'll do. And I want to thank you once again for coming on, and we'll see you up in New York, my friend.
My pleasure. Thank you again for having me. And again, this relationship and partnership has been unbelievable, and I'm so happy that we met and connected and can continue to do this.
Yeah. And big things to come for sure.
Yes, sir. You rock, John.
All righty. Thank you.
Thanks.
I tell you, Dom from Coach's Collectibles, such a busy guy and doing amazing things. He's all over the place. He's working with the Mets from the past, the current stars, and he is one of the most respected memorabilia dealers in this country. We have some sad news, as you probably have heard. On July 8th, baseball lost one of its finest, Phil Regan, who had an incredible 60-year-plus career in this game as a coach, a player, a manager, passed away at the age of 89 of natural causes in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Phil was one of Terry Collins' closest friends. He was a guest on this show, and as a tribute to his remarkable career as a baseball lifer who helped shape the careers of so many, we're going to replay that wonderful interview that TC had with Phil. And we will be back with that right after this special story honoring Chicago police officer Danny Golden on behalf of the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Come on, folks, let's hear it from. It's my honor and pleasure to be here on behalf of the Tunnel to Towers Foundation and the Siller family to welcome home a true American hero. We're in the city of Chicago today to give away a smart home for a police officer, Danny Golden. Danny stepped up while he was off duty. He was trying to break up a fight in a bar, and somebody shot him. He's paralyzed from the waist down.
The bullet severed my spinal cord and stopped a millimeter from my heart. I was told I would never walk again. What I did that night was the right thing to do. Someone has to step up.
All I ever hear is that he saved a lot of lives that night.
My whole life, I always wanted to be a police officer. My grandfather was a police officer. My dad was a homicide detective. I always wanted to walk in their footsteps. I loved it. I loved every part of it.
I can't think of a person more deserving of a new house to make his life and his family's life a little bit easier.
Hit that button for the elevator to the right. Now I'll meet you upstairs.
Oh my God. Oh, so big. I mean, the attention to detail it's unbelievable. Be able to have an elevator in my house, I did not factor that in at all.
Touch the faucet.
Oh, wow.
Touch it again.
I don't have to knock in the counters anymore or bust my hands going through tight hallways.
I think it was like the first week we were home and we were struggling a little bit. Like, God, we looked at each other and we were like, how are we gonna get through this? This house is going to be such a big help to have him be more independent.
Amazing.
Still can't believe this is our house and that they did this for us.
My future's so bright now. Tunnel to Towers' passion and pride and what they've done for me is, I could never repay them. It's just unbelievable.
By giving $11 a month, you're joining us on our mission to do good. Go to T2T.org to make a positive impact.
Our special guest today on Talking with TC is a dear friend of Terry's, with a friendship going back many, many years. He's a former big league pitcher, pitching from 1960 to 1972. He was an All-Star in 1966 when he also won NL Reliever of the Year and Comeback Player of the Year. He managed the Baltimore Orioles. He coached from 1984 through 2019. Stops along the way included the Mariners, the Indians, the Cubs, the New York Mets. A true baseball lifer. Let's say hello to Phil Regan. Phil, welcome to Talking with TC.
Thank you. Good to be here this morning. Good to see TC again. I haven't seen him for a while. I'm trying to get him on the golf course, but he's kind of hiding from me right now.
You can't blame me, Phil. I know you get hot out there, so I'm waiting for it to heat up before we play again.
Oh yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, and I really, really appreciate it. And when John and I talk about trying to get people out, I'm thinking, who might be fun to talk to about the game, and all the times that you and I are together, we talk about not just the current game, but the game itself and how it's evolved. And, here we're talking to a guy that's 63 years, Phil, 64 years.
Yeah. I started in 1956 in Jamestown, New York. That was my first year with the Tigers. It was a Class D league and called the Pony League at that time. And of course, they don't have Class D anymore. But that's where I started.
So, Phil, on that team, how many pitchers did you guys have on that team?
We carried about 8 pitchers, and kind of an interesting thing, Terry. I grew up in Michigan on a little farm. I never had a uniform on in baseball till I was in high school. I threw against the barn with my brother. I built my own mound, threw some rubber balls against the barn, made a little thing there, and then went into high school, and then went to Western for a year. And then at 19 years old, I went to Jamestown, New York. And I think this is one of the major differences in baseball today as compared to then. I pitched 229 innings the first year, 19 years old, and won 17 games. But I stayed there all year. They didn't move me. The Tigers didn't move me. And then the next year I went to Durham. I pitched there again, a lot of innings. Went to Birmingham, pitched a lot of innings there again. Went to winter ball after that year, 1958. And pitched all winter there. So, they really didn't put the restrictions on you back then as they do now. And I think it's a little bit of a problem. There's a lot of reasons probably why you have arm problems. I think. And today, if I watch them on television a lot. In fact, I talked to Steve Matz the other day. A little bit about some things, and one of the things that Dr. Andrews said, the great arm doctor, that one of the main reasons for arm operations today is the bad mechanics, and I don't see them talking too much about bad mechanics. You get a lot of iPads behind the mound, and they'll say your horizontal rotation is bad, your vertical rotation is not good, but they don't tell them why it's not good. And I think that's a little bit of a problem today in today's pitching.
Phil, we had on the show Dave Wallace, Rick Honeycutt. We were trying to get Danny Wharton on. We had some connection issues, but they both said exactly the same thing. So in today's game with the pitching stuff, you've got all of these so-called pitching schools around the country who are teaching velocity, the drive line guys, and, they're teaching velocity. So you sending high school kids and college kids out to, throw the ball as hard as they can. Where does it start? When is it going to be that all of a sudden the mechanics have to be better? I mean, are we going to just continue getting guys hurt? Where do you think the line has to be drawn to where we start teaching better mechanics as pitching coaches?
I think you got a problem, Terry, when you start getting rid of all the people in baseball that know mechanics or that know the fundamentals of baseball, and hire people that are very good at computers and iPads and things like that. But really don't get into the mechanics of how to get the pitch there. And the training, I always tell a story about, I don't know if you guys like history, but George Patton was during the World War II, and Omar Bradley brought 3 generals in. They were going to had to march 100 miles in winter and meet the Germans in a battle, and during the dead of winter. And he asked the British general, "When can you get your army ready to leave?" And he said, "I can leave in 2 weeks." And he said, "Okay." And then he asked the French general, "When can you leave?" He said, "I can leave in 1 week." And then he asked Patton, "When can you leave?" He said, "I can leave tomorrow." And the guy said, "Why do you think that you can take your army out of a major march you just had and march them 100 miles through the dead of winter and entertain in a major battle?" And he said, "Because I trained them." And I think that's one of the things we need to do today. We got to train our pitchers to how they're going to go. I see the commissioners, whoever said that they're going to maybe have to go 6 innings. Well, 6 innings was a bad game. 20 years ago, it was not a good game. So we got to train them, I think, Terry.
Yeah, I totally agree, Phil. I mean, injuries are going to come. I mean, I had, you brought up Dr. Andrews, who's great doctor, but I spent time with Dr. Job in L.A. when I was primarily director of the Dodgers at the time, and we had a big week-long session out there where we talked about how to keep the condition, how to keep the pitchers in better shape, throwing programs, running programs. We had all of his interns and all of his special guys, his physical therapists, and we had experts on training and stuff. And at the end of this whole thing, Dr. Job came up and he said, "Guys, this has been a great 4 days." He said, "We've shared a lot of information," but he said, I'm just going to tell you one piece of advice, give you one piece of advice. He said, "In all my years dealing with athletics, especially, with professional pitchers or professional baseball players, if they're going to break, they're going to break. No matter what you think you're going to do to avoid it, there's going to be a time where there's only so many bullets and so many, in every before we break." And so I sat there and I thought about it. I'm thinking, the most important thing to do now is to make sure we develop it, we get them in shape slowly, but get them to where they're, where the game becomes easy, so where they don't have to overstrain themselves when it comes to game time. And Dave Wallace brought up in the one show, Philly, where, used to be bullpens were, 50, 60 pitches where you worked on stuff. They're 40 pitches today because they only can throw 70 pitches in a game. So
that's true.
Waste all of your, and I remember when I was in Japan, they would throw 100 pitch bullpens so that their 125 pitches in a game was easy for them. And the physical conditioning, one of the things I talked with some guys years and years ago, baseball being an anaerobic sport, there's a lot of standing around. So you actually have to keep your legs in good shape or you're going to get tired. And so we ran and nobody runs today. So
that's true.
We've got to, when you talk about training, you worked for 100 and some years that you guys ran and you threw.
A lot
of it. So Phil, you go back to when you started. So you're talking about your starters. How many relievers did you have on those teams?
Well, I think I can even go to the major leagues. In 1966, when I joined the Dodgers, we carried 9 pitchers. We had 4 starters. 3 of them were Hall of Famers, but Koufax, Drysdale, and Sutton, and Osteen, all 4 pretty good starters, and we only had 5 guys in the bullpen. And a lot of times, a lot of those guys, like a Jim Brewer, he didn't even hardly pitch. He was a left-handed long man, and he didn't hardly get into any games. But those guys were completing 27, 28 games, 30 games each, and pitching 300 innings. So we only had nine pitchers on our staff.
So did you ever hurt your arm?
Terry, I'm knock on wood. I was very fortunate. I played 17 years and never was on the DL. Never hurt my arm. Never missed a start. Never missed a turn. Pitched 8 days in a row. I don't know. I think it was just fortunate. And I think one thing maybe goes back to I grew up on a farm. I did a lot of hay baling, throwing bales of hay up into the mound, up into the barn. and maybe I strengthened my rotator cuff. I don't know, but I just never had a problem, and I could always pitch a lot.
And I will tell you guys, and I'll tell our audience, the last time I saw Phil on the field was three years ago, and he's still throwing batting practice. I don't know what he's at that time.
I was 87 years old. Yeah, it was a funny thing. It was on my birthday, and I was going to throw it here. My wife had invited 30 people out here to Port St. Lucie to do it at the ballpark, and I come home that night, and I got a phone call from the New York. Said, "We're flying you to New York in the morning. You're throwing it here in New York." So I went there.
Oh my God, that is just crazy. So Phil, besides all of the years in the summertime, tell everybody, how many years did you go to winter ball?
Oh Lord. Well, I played several years. I played in Puerto Rico. I played in Nicaragua, winter ball. But then after getting out of baseball as a player and starting into the coaching, I spent like 20 years in Venezuela coaching against you at the Tiburones, the Guaida, and tough man to manage against too. Let me tell you that. He had a good ball club. I was with Caracas. I was there about 20 years. Been to the Dominican for about 7-8 years. I went back. Omar Minaya got me back down there to at La Romana, and the last year I went was a couple of years ago. He went to get the team, the pitchers in shape, and get them ready for the season and start the season. Then I came on back home. Interesting how I got into winter ball is that Cookie Rojas, I was with Seattle, and he needed a pitching coach, and he asked me to come down and be his pitching coach at La Romana in the Dominican Republic. So I went, and then he was not going to manage the next year, and he said, "You should manage this club." And I said, "Well, it depends on the owner." And the owner said, "Yes, we'll have you come back and manage." So then I started. That's how I started managing. But how I got the next year, I sat out a year, and then I went to Escogido, and it was an interesting thing how I got there. I hadn't planned on going to winter ball, and Manny Mota was managing at Escogido in the capital in Santo Domingo, and Don McMahon was going to go with him as his pitching coach. Well, during the course of the season, like in September, I think it was, Don McMahon was throwing batting practice for the Dodgers in Dodger Stadium and fell over with a heart attack and died. And that's how I got to go down there. And then that year, as a pitching coach and Mota was the manager, we started off, we were 3-15. And I was down in the bullpen, and a guy came down and said, "The owner wants to see you in the office." And I thought, well, I'm probably going home early. And I got in there, and he said, we want you to take over the team and manage it. And I said, no, I got to call Fred Clare, who was the general manager of the Dodgers, because Mota and I are both with the Dodgers, and we work together. And he said, no, we already called him, and he said for you to do it. And so I did it, and all of a sudden we just caught fire, and we ended up winning that year. Went to the Caribbean Series and won it after being 3-15. Beat Licey, which is a big team in there. We beat them 4 games in the championship series, and the next year our Escogido had a patch on there with 4 fingers thrown out that they beat Licey for 4 straight games. But that's the way I started. And then I stayed there a couple of years. We won again the next year, and then Felipe Lu wanted to manage again. And if you know winter baseball, know Escogido, it's the Alus, because all 3 brothers played for that team, and they're big. And so he came back and managed there. And then I went to the Dodgers sent me to Caracas. That's how I got over there, and we won again. So and then he won again, and we played the Caribbean Series that year was in Miami. So we came to Miami, and we played each other in the Caribbean Series over here in Miami. So, and it just kept going. We won some games. It just kept going back. I tell you a funny thing though happened to me in Venezuela, and I don't mean to dominate your whole conversation, but we were practicing at another field other than the stadium there, and the general from the Chavez, who had taken over then as the dictator there, the president, and he came over to me, and Chavez loved baseball, and he'd go to Cuba and pitch against Castro in simulated games and stuff like that. And he said to me, Chavez sent me here to tell you he wants to pitch against you. I said, really? I said, you tell him I'll pitch against him, but he ain't winning. I'm not going to let him win. But I enjoyed my time. I had some interesting things when Chavez took over. I was at the Anaco Hilton. I was standing out on the balcony that morning, and I saw the planes coming over. The tanks were marching into the city. They were bombing the palace, and it was quite an exciting time at that
Yeah,
year.
if you remember, I was coaching third for you, and I saw you, and I'm going to tell the people watching, you pulled the greatest managerial move I ever seen in the history of baseball. Do you remember that, Phil? The night you took out the left fielder with the tying run at third base, with one out, you called time and took out your left fielder, put in a new left fielder, and the next guy up hit a fly ball to left field, and he threw the runner out at home plate there. The greatest managerial move I have ever seen.
Well, yeah, I remember that. There was you could do some things there. I was kind of, I didn't let guys wear sunglasses. They'd wear them, and I didn't let them wear them. You couldn't do that today in today's game. It's a totally different game. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Those are the kind of things though that led for you getting that Baltimore Orioles job. From winter ball, managing making those moves in winter ball, and they all worked. You weren't all those things down there. It was incredible. Phil, did you manage in the United States in the minor leagues at all before you got that job?
I never other than college. I never managed in the United States before I got that job. Managed down there. I was down there a lot of years before I got that job. They brought me in and interviewed me, and it was kind of an interesting thing because sometimes you make mistakes in this game, as you know, Terry, in decisions that you make. But the Texas Rangers had wanted me to come to Texas after I left Baltimore to go there and manage and interview for that job. Well, I got to Baltimore, and they said we're going to give you a 2-year contract, and the money was pretty good. Now here's a guy I'd never managed before in America, and they're offering me a 2-year contract. So I was thinking, do I go and interview in Texas or do I take this job? I took the job. I probably should have went to Texas. But I'll go back even further than that. Fred Clare, I did a lot of advanced scouting for him for like 10 years, and he put me down in winter ball, and he liked me. And he told me once, Tommy's not going to be managing here forever, and which I knew. But anyway, the Marlins had just come into existence for their first year, and Dave Dombrowski was the general manager. Cookie Rojas was his right-hand man, and Cookie called me and asked me to come and interview for that expansion job. And I told Fred, I called Fred and said, they invited me to come and interview for the Marlins job. And he said, well, Phil, I want to tell you again, you can do it, but I'm going to tell you again, Tommy won't be here forever. And I'm thinking, I'd like to manage the Dodgers. And you know what I'm talking about, Terry. And so I turned it down. And the next year, after I went to Baltimore, Dodgers hired me to manage their AAA club. And Tommy did resign after he had that heart attack or whatever it was. Bill Russell took over, and he won. He qualified, so they named him interim manager for the rest of the year. And he won, so the next year they named him the manager. And I was at Albuquerque, and I said, well, I really don't want to stay in the minor leagues. So, I could have had that Miami job. I thought I was going to get the Dodger job, but I didn't get it. And, you those are things you make, and you look back and say, I should have went to Texas.
Phil, one of the things that made your nickname, the Vulture, tell us how that came to be.
Well, there was an article just on someone sent me on the internet the other day where one of the great games in history was Koufax and Bunning were pitching a game in L.A. and they went 12 innings, and Koufax struck out 16 guys. Jim Bunning, who I'd played with in Detroit, a great pitcher, and he struck out 12 guys, and they were tied. So I came in and pitched 1 inning, and we scored a run. I got the win. And the next game that Koufax pitched was in Pittsburgh, and he went 8 innings, and they took him out for a pinch hitter, and the score was tied. I come in, pitched one, and we got the win. We scored a run. I got the win. So I had 2 wins like that, and I walked in the clubhouse, and he's standing there. He said, "Regan, you're a real vulture getting my wins." Well, that's the way it started. Of course, by him saying it, I think it made it even, how it stuck. But I had the zoo in L.A. want to come out and put a live vulture in the bullpen and chain it up there. So we had a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I still get cards that people want me to sign the vulture.
Do you really?
Yeah, 30, 40 years ago. 50 years ago, maybe.
Those are some of the great things that years ago. And I know what you're saying. I mean, I had Sandy come out one time and talk to my pitchers when I was managing the Angels, and they asked him, and they said, how'd you get ready for the season? He said, well, I pitched 9 innings twice in spring training, and you should have saw their jaws drop. Like, you did what?
Yeah.
Sandy said, well, you got to get ready because I'm going 9. He said, I'm going 9 when the season starts.
Well, the year that he and Drysdale held out all spring, trying. I guess they were trying to get 100. I don't know how much they were trying to get, $100,000. But it was kind of an amazing thing because that's how Sutton made that club, because he got to pitch a lot. I was going to be a relief pitcher, but I got to start a lot down there. And so the season started, and now they joined us in Arizona. And Sandy went out and pitched 4 or 5 innings, and then started, the next day in a couple of days in L.A. And but that's how I became a relief pitcher. Walt Alston told me, he said, we got Sutton here. We don't want him to relieve. He's only 20 years old. We're going to let him start a couple of games, but if he doesn't pitch well, he's going back to Seattle, and then we're going to start you. So my first game I come in, I relieved Koufax and pitched. He pitched about 3, and I pitched about 4 or 5 as a long man. He said, now we're going to try him in short relief, and Sutton started winning, and I stayed in the bullpen. That's how I became a relief pitcher.
So, John, I know you've got questions for Phil. Go ahead and jump in.
I do. Phil, I'm going to go back to 1969, if that's okay. You remember the Chicago Cubs at that time, and you pitched under manager Leo DeRocha. The Mets and the Cubs battled that year for the first ever NL Eastern title. The Mets eventually became the Miracle Mets and won that series and went on to win the World Series. And as a member of that heavily favored Cubs team, what was the feeling among the team about the 1969 Mets? Talk to us about that season and the rivalry at that time between the Cubs and the New York Mets.
Okay. Well, to go even further, after I got out of baseball and came back and joined the Mets, I went into the minor league clubhouse and I looked up there and it said 1969 World Champions. I thought, oh no, the first thing come back, I'm haunted by that again. But we had a great team in Chicago, and with Santo, Banks, and Beckert, and Kessinger, and Fergie, and Kenny Holtzman. We had a tremendous team, and we got off to a good start. And Leo was Leo. I loved Leo. I liked him a lot. But some of the players didn't care for him a lot. But he was a little bit different. But he was tough. But I liked him. And he was very, very good manager. And as we went along, we were rolling along. I think we had like a 9-game lead over the Mets at that time going into September. And I can remember calling home and with 25 games to go, we had a 5-game lead. And my wife had said, "Do you think you're going to win?" I said, "Gee, we got a 5-game lead with 20. If we don't win, we don't deserve it." And but all of a sudden, I think the game that really killed us, we got beat in St. Louis like 2-1 or 3-2. I forget the score. And that day in Pittsburgh, the Mets won a doubleheader, 1-0 and 1-0, and the pitchers in both games drove in the winning run.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Don
right?
Cardwell was one of the pitchers. Yeah, I remember that.
And so you begin to say, hey, they won like 28 out of 30, and we just kind of collapsed a little bit. I think one of the things that maybe happened to us a little bit was we had those eight or nine good players, And Leo really played him every day. And there is a difference playing in Chicago every day in the daytime, in the heat, as against playing, say, in LA or New York, where you play some games at night and it's a little bit cooler. And I think by September, our team was really, really, really dragging. You know, we were missing fly balls and ground balls, and pitchers weren't pitching. And but I know this. I pitched in 70 games in LA and never got tired. But at the end of the 69 season in Chicago and in the daylight, it was you were tired. I tell you an interesting story. He stood out in left field one day with Ernie Banks, and who was always positive. You know, I always tried to get him to say something negative, and he never would. And I said to him one day, we're standing there, and we're sweating just standing there. And I said, Ernie, don't you think it's just too hot to play baseball today? And he looked at me and he said, Phil, it'd be a lot hotter if it was out picking cotton. I said, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It would be. But you could never get him to say anything, a negative guy. What a great person. But I think the whole thing came down to the team got tired. And we didn't have a lot of reserves, you know, and they played every day. And at the end, I think they were tired.
Yeah, you did have one named Jimmy Qualls who broke up Seaver's perfect game July 9th in 69.
Line drive over shortstop in left center field. Yep. I still see it.
That was crazy. And there were a lot of, you know, very historic games that year. And the one that stands out to me a little bit that I just wanted to get your opinion on, especially with Leo DeRocha, was the September game. Agee came up, got brushed back, and then Jerry Koosman hit Santo. And that was the game. There was a black cat that made it onto the field and stopped right in front of Leo and looked at him and ran away, and everyone made a big deal of it. Well, that's it. It's a sign. It's a jinx. What did you and the Cubs think of that crazy night in 1969 with the black cat?
Yeah, you know, I remember that. Now I'm going to tell you a story about that too.
Okay.
Jim Hickman was one of our players, and Jim Hickman was from Tennessee, Henning, Tennessee. I don't know if you've been there. It's a real small town in Tennessee. It's where the guy that wrote Roots, that was his hometown. That's where he wrote the story, Roots. So Jim Hickman, you know, died a few years ago, and I went back down there to his funeral, and this fellow said, "Would you like me to show you around Henning, Tennessee?" I said, "Yeah." You know, Jim used to we roomed together for 6 years, so he used to always talk about Ripley and Henning, Tennessee. I said, "Yeah, I'd like to go see it." So he took me to it started at the courthouse, a real small town. He said, "This was all built by slave labor back a long time ago." But as we pulled up there, a black cat ran up the steps. This is the honest truth. I'm not kidding you. He ran up the steps. The guy said, "Oh, hey, look at that." And he knew the story. So he said, "What else would you like to see?" And I said, "I'd like to go to Jim Hickman's house because he told me the story about his dad had this big pecan tree in his backyard. And he said, you know, this year, Phil, he made $800 selling those pecans off that tree." And I said, "Well, you know, I'd like to go to his house and just see his house." Incidentally, we walked up to the door and introduced myself to the owner, a new owner. And I said, and I told him a story about the pecan tree. He said, "Really?" He said, "I'm going to start selling. I've been giving those away, you know." But anyway, as we walked around to go to this tree, a black cat ran by the tree. Now, within an hour, less than an hour, I saw 2 black cats in Henning, Tennessee. I think it might have been Hickman, the jinx. I don't know. If he's around today, I'd call him and tell him. But that was a black cat.
Wow. Wanted to take you back to 2019. While as a pitching coach for the Mets, the New York Post covered how you would leave a note on the team's bulletin board every day. Some of these notes included phrases like, "Yesterday's home run won't win a game today," and "A mosquito never got a pat on the back until he started to work." So talk to us a little bit about using this form of kind of unorthodox messaging to the pitching staff that year.
Well, I did, and had an interesting one of the reserve kids that wasn't playing much. He said, "You know, I come to the clubhouse every day just to read the quote that you got up on the board. I got another one for you." The guy said, Vince Lombardi said, "You never get to the top of a mountain by falling there." You got to climb, boys. but it was just something to get them going. And I remember one where I talked about you got to go out in the field and get the cows; they won't come home, And Jake DeGrom loved that one. That was one of his favorite ones that he loved. But I just tried to get him a little conversation going with him each day and give him something to think about. Yeah.
And do you still keep in touch with a lot of the guys, a lot of the pitchers that you worked with, especially on the Mets side, for example?
Yes, I do. And Seth Lugo called me about a week ago, just before the All-Star game. He said, "Phil, I'm an All-Star." I was so happy because I had him down here in St. Lucie and took him, through the minor leagues and was with him in New York. Steven Matz, DeGrom, we talked quite a bit. Yeah. In fact, I just talked to Matz the other day. I had some film of him down here when about 3 years ago, he'd had a bad year and he'd come down here and he wanted to spend a week down here in the minor leagues, and we worked. And then he got traded and went to Toronto, won 14 games. And I had some nice video of him, how he was throwing. And they sent him back down, I think, to work on some stuff in St. Louis. So I called him. I said, "I hope you don't think I'm out of line, but I want to send you this picture. Just look at it." He said, "Yeah, send it to me." So I sent it to him, and he said, "Yeah, I see it now. I see what I was doing." So maybe it helped him. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He lives in the same town as I do here in Franklin, Tennessee. So
in Tennessee, yeah.
Yeah. Got to know his wife a little bit, who's in the inspirational band with her siblings. But yeah, Phil, I really appreciate it. I'm going to throw it back to Terry. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are great stories, Phil. I mean, my gosh, of course, you told me some of them before, but they're still fun to listen to anyway. So Phil, I want to talk about some of the new ones what's going on today in the big leagues, the new rules. Do you still watch a lot of games?
Yeah, I watch a game almost every night. I get the cable here, and somewhere along the line, I watch a game almost every night. Yeah.
What rules? What are the rules? Some of the new rules that you like, and what are some of the rules you don't like of the game today?
Well, at first, I didn't like the speed up, where the pitcher didn't have time. But I went to a few minor league games out here, and the games were so much quicker that I thought, well, maybe they're not all bad. Maybe that's not all bad. A lot of pitchers don't like it because they think it hurries them up a little bit, But sometimes it works for them. Some Terry, some pitchers work fast, some others take their time. So. It probably those are some of the things that I don't really care for. Where you have to bring a guy in, this is tough managing, I think. Where you bring a relief pitcher in and he has to face 3 hitters or something like that, and that's a tough thing because it takes away your specialty. Where you're a manager and maybe you're looking at a guy over there and you see they're either going to bring the right hander or the left hander in, and then you leave and you don't have that choice now to make that move to get a left hander out or to get a right hand hitter out. I think that's a bad rule personally. I don't care for that one. Other than that, there's I often wonder who's making these rules. I don't think there's any pitchers on that committee that's making them because they all seem to be against the pitcher. But whatever.
I think you're right. That should be odd, because it all starts. They're trying to speed the game up. That's basically what it is. They talk about the new age fan today. They're so busy with so many things now that they don't have 3 hours to sit there. But it's taken the strategy away from the game. I had a pitcher who pitched for me named Jerry Blevins for a number of years, and this guy for 3 years. He had 75 appearances, and most of them were one guy. He got the toughest left-handed hitter on that other team out a lot of times. Sometimes he did, but for the most part, that's what made him special, And so now he's got to commit a game, and now he has to face that big left-handed hitter. He may get him out, but now he's got to face 2 more guys. So tomorrow night, I might not have him.
There you go. That's exactly
strategy
right.
away, and that part to me is that's where I think the game. But I'll tell you something, Phil. I watch a lot of games too. I've got the same stuff. I got the MLB where I can watch all the games. But anybody that goes extra innings, I turn it off. I'm not watching a guy who hasn't been on base for 2 days now all of a sudden go stand on second base and score the winning run. I'm not watching that. You know, just like you just talked about. Here you are, you know, you got Sandy going 12 innings, you know, strikes out 16 guys, and you come in, and all of a sudden now there's a guy standing at second base. I mean, those are the kind of things I'm thinking, you know, who enjoys that? Who enjoys that?
Yeah.
You know, and I remember a few years ago that I had heard a rumor that there's a possibility that they were going to have the manager hit whoever he wanted in extra innings, because in baseball, the star player sometimes never has any effect in extra innings, because if he's hitting second and you lead off the 10th inning with your number 6 hitter, he may not have any impact on the game. And the whole thing was the fans love to see the star player. So it's, you know, but that was always part of the game. That's what made the game a thinking man's game, where you had to manage. I mean, that's
right.
We had to manage the game, and now it's pretty much taking it out of our hands.
I'll give you a little insight on that man at second base, because that always bugged me too. And so about a year ago, I asked the pitchers with the Mets, I said, what would you rather have? It's an unearned run against them if that run scores, but they get the loss.
Right.
I said, wouldn't you rather have an earned run and not the loss? I said, oh no, we'd rather have the loss, because we get paid on earned run average. I said, I want to tell you something. I got to laugh. In 50 years from now, when I check your record, I'm going to see that loss. I don't know if it's an earned run or not, but I know you lost the game. That's what I see. But they would rather take the loss and not the earned run. It's an interesting thing. The other rules I don't like, Terry, is the catcher, you can't stand there and block home plate like Socha used to do. You can't slide into second base. I saw an out the other day. The game ended where the shortstop came in, the guy went back to second base, and they called him out for. They ended the game on that on an interference call. You probably saw it. I mean, there was no interference, and I don't know how they got that, but there's a lot of different rules today. It's hard sometimes to throw it at hitters now like they used to, because you're going to get into a fight probably and get thrown out of the game anyway. So the rules have changed. The game has changed. There's no doubt, and I'm not always sure it's for the better.
Phil, did you ever play anything on your fingers to get a better grip when you were pitching?
Oh no, I wouldn't.
Never
do
did
that. You know that. Well, let me tell you. I'll tell you that story. I know you've been looking for it. I was in Chicago and came in to pitch, and Chris Pellicutis was the umpire. Pete Rose was the hitter. It was my favorite player anyway. But anyway, I struck him out, and Pellicutis said, no pitch. Going to let him hit again. I said, why? They said, because of the rotation on the ball, we think it was an illegal pitch. So they come out, they took my hat off, and they rubbed they checked me all over. They couldn't find anything. And they let him hit again. He got a base hit. Somebody wrote the other day, you know, he should have one less hit on his record than he's got, the hit king, because he got that hit after I struck him out. Now Mac Jones, the center fielder, came up left-hand hitter, hit a fly ball to center field. They called him back, said no pitch, illegal pitch, because it was because of the rotation on the ball. Let him hit again. He flied out. I had to get him out 3 different times, but I did. And so at the end of the game, they called 14 illegal pitches. And Randy Hundley was the catcher, and we got in the clubhouse afterward, and we figured they missed 3. But that happened in the game, in the major league game.
Oh, my
God.
I go to today. I'd like to talk to some of these hitters, and especially as everybody's throwing so hard now, and guys are pitching inside. Yeah. We're seeing guys get hit, breaking their hands, and everything else. Yeah. And I always wanted to ask them, would you rather have that, or would you rather have that pitcher get a little bit better command of that fastball with a little something on his hands that he can now locate that pitch a little bit better? What would you like? We had one hitter, Phil, a few years ago. Who came up, said, hey, look, Garrett Cole's doctoring the baseball, and so we got to look at it. So all of a sudden they changed rules because of one guy, and now guys are getting hurt right and left because they're getting hit, 100-mile-an-hour pitches.
Yeah. Well, it's a changed game. There's no doubt about it, and I don't know if it's better.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time coming on the show. Love to see you. We will be playing golf here very soon.
All right. I'm waiting for you. I'm getting
Okay,
ready.
good.
He's a good golfer.
Good,
Everybody
good,
doesn't
good,
want
good.
to know Terry Collins. He's competitive and he's a good golfer.
The challenge has been made.
All right.
But Phil, thank you so much. We'll hook up,
right.
and it was just a blast having you on, and can't wait to get out and see you.
Thank you. Good seeing you, all you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. When you look back at it now and see that interview that Terry and I did with Phil, it's just so sad to know that he's gone now. So we were happy to replay that interview for everyone and to see what a baseball lifer this does and what a passion for the game that he had right up until his final days. Before we go, we want to announce that next week's show, Terry will be back, and we will also bring on a member of the 2026 Hall of Fame class, an upcoming Mets Hall of Famer, who will also get his number retired in September. Carlos Beltran will talk about his Hall of Fame induction and upcoming Mets induction as well. That is here next week on the Terry Collins Show. And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Just look for the Terry Collins Show and put that in your search engine. You could listen to the show on all podcast platforms. You could subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Every full episode since the debut of the show in 2024 is there, and we release highlights from the show there each and every week. Subscribe now by going to youtube.com/The Terry Collins Show. That'll wrap up this edition of the program. Thanks to our creative director, Marsh, and to our researcher, Dominic DiBiase. For Terry Collins, this is John Arezzi. Thanks for joining us, and have a great week, everyone.